Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I welcome you to tonight's Ball of Fun, right? We are a lender. We close $1 billion a year in multifamily. We've closed 5,700 loans, so we know how to close. So if you have any opportunities, we'd love to be able to size them for you and take them to the close. So I am your host tonight. We do not have a speaker tonight. We were going to have one, but he canceled. So I said, that's fine. Let's get to know each other. And as we get going through here, we'll be seeing more and more people. But I am curious what you guys are doing on your free time. Tell me, is everybody back to work? Is everybody back to work? Never left.
Well, I'm part-time.
Steve, did you? What did you? Okay.
What did you just say?
So you're back to work. You're still at home, Tim.
Well, I'm actually doing part-time.
Oh boy, our
and
network.
one week I'm at work, and then the other week I'm at home. So this week I'm actually working.
Hey guys.
That's probably a
Davide.
Hi, Davide.
Hey Julie, Steve, everybody.
It looks like we've got quite some issues with our network here, so we're going to be patient. Am I the only one that's having that?
Hearing it too.
Yeah.
Seems fine to me. Is it
Okay,
sound?
then I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, it's a little slow on my end, but yeah.
No, I mean, it's like nothing happens, and then and then we start talking.
I saw it. Okay, I saw it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, my intention today is to find out what you guys are up to. How are you managing COVID? And ultimately, I'd love to go into our small groups to chat, but I wasn't sure how many people would show up. I think this Slack has a great amount of value to us. You can find your partners in here. You can find your investors. You can find, you know, attorneys, property managers. They're all here for you to understand and to get to know. So I do like the idea of going off into a couple different rooms. But let's see if we can get some more people to jump on. All right. And they need feedback, or they need some encouragement. Anybody struggling? No? Is anybody working on anything? Let me ask that.
We're all faking it here until we make it.
Hey, what happened with the 108 units, Steve?
I went and checked it out today.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was nice. Not a huge fan of the area, but the property itself was nice. So Julie, I definitely wanted to talk to you at some point to see what contacts you have in Houston. The property that I'm working on right now, it's a loan extension.
And I have a brand new property manager. Okay.
I've sent my underwriting to a property manager here. And then I have that's looking at what it would look like to do the supplemental loan with the loan assumption. But yeah, I've been getting a decent amount of deal flow and just been underwriting a lot, and really excited to get into my first deal on the GP side.
So what are you finding when you're underwriting these? How are you finding, now you've seen a change in the reserves, right? Those have really changed up in the last week. We've seen Freddie drop their pricing. how are your underwriting? How's that affecting your underwriting?
I mean, obviously, you know, that helps out from the reserve standpoint. I think there's still, what I've noticed is there's still a gap though. There's still a gap between seller expectations and buyer expectations right now, just because of the collections is in general what I'm seeing. But I have noticed in the last, you know, I guess 2 weeks, more deal flow. But what I would really love more than anything is to get a hold of a list of somehow the filed for forbearance. I don't know how I could get my hands on that, but I think that would be a real asset to probably all of us in this chat room right now, especially if we're all trying to get our first GP asset. We could help out a distressed buyer or a distressed seller.
I didn't hear the
Steve,
last part of that.
yeah.
Did you get a list of what?
Yeah, I missed that
Yeah.
too.
I missed it too,
Yeah,
actually.
we missed that.
So I was saying if we could get a list of all the mortgages that have filed for forbearance right now.
Oh, yes.
Because I saw on a, I forget what it was. I saw like a list where you could see the chart, and it's going way up on multifamily properties that have filed for forbearance.
Yeah,
Nice
there are.
There is a list like that somewhere?
Apparently,
I think you could
probably data that shows, you know, that shows the numbers.
Is it by state?
I can't even remember where I last saw it. It was on a recording.
I did post something. I posted something probably the beginning of end of May, I think it was. So there was like 1,100 in forbearance, and you know it started out at 200, and now it's at 1,100. Yeah.
And June was probably a lot higher than even May. So I don't know. I think we're about to start seeing deals coming up, or the expectations start to you know, meeting or becoming.
Well, yeah, potentially. Like on some of my rentals, parents, why not? It doesn't cost me anything. It doesn't affect my credit. But when you get into multifamily, you know, they're saying that it will get into the forbearance will affect you. But you know what? I really have a hard time believing that, honestly. I think that it's Mark. You could get right back on plan and be going, you know. And even if you're not up to par at 3 months, they may put a lockbox on your funds, which at that point you really do need to have a conversation with the bank or with, you know, as a seller. So yeah, it would be nice to have a list. I would say that Yardi Matrix or CoStar is somebody that will know what is available, which ones are, which properties are on there. So I just found that when they took off the reserves, the taxes and insurance, things started to make more sense. So this week we've gotten a lot more deal flow. People, you know, taking into consideration that, hey, I'm not going to do my reserve or rather my rehab because I've got the reserve requirements. But let's say in a year, we can go ahead and start the rehab. We already have the dollars. So that's where I see a lot of underwriting going right now.
Julie, could you confirm again the requirements? You said it changed recently. What are they now?
Yes. So I would love to share with you my screen. Here we go. Can you guys see that? No? Hold on.
Yep. We can see
There
it.
we go. There we go. Let's go here. So here are the requirements. This is on Fannie conventional, so 6 million and more. You see it's only 12 months. Taxes, insurance, replacement reserves, the $300 a door, they're all gone. 65 or below, rather, right around 65 is 6 months. When you get into this tier 4, it really doesn't make sense. That's not how the syndication model really works in these no reserves, this lower leverage deals. Now, certainly, if you've got a 1031 and you're getting into a deal and you want to get something that you're not syndicating, this is a great model. This, 55 or 55 LTV and no reserves, that's fine. But if you've got, investors, this model doesn't work. These are the release after originally it was at 2 years or 2 quarters. It's now 1 that has to be held consecutively at 1.25 for a minimum of 9 months. So in essence, it's 6 months holding it, and then that last 3 could be potentially at 1.25 and then exit at 9. Same thing with the lower loan amount, same thing, 1 consecutive quarter after 6 months for a total of 9. So when you go to SBL, and this is where there's questions, because on Freddie, it's 12 months, small balance, and on Fannie, it's 18 months. So we're seeing a shift going into Freddie at the smaller balance. So this is 18 months, as you can see, and we've gotten rid of the reserves. That just happened a week ago. These guys on the small balances were holding out. These were a requirement up until a week ago.
So only debt service, no expenses, principal and interest, that's it. That's all they hold, right?
Principal and interest, that's correct. Yep. And again, it's 1 consecutive quarter at 1.25 for 6 months and 1 quarter, so 9 months. What I like about Fannie is this small balance. On the small balance, you can do, and on the large balance too, you can do the supplemental, which is what Steve was talking about before some of you guys jumped on. And supplemental can be, it runs coterminous with the senior loan. You can bolt that on after year 1. You get the appraised value of 70%. Now, Steve, if you were going to take that loan, you're considered a new customer, so you get 75.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You have to make sure that there's enough. You have to replace the reserves, right? You're now taking on more debt, but it's coming from the supplemental. I like that idea. I like that product. It's going to cost you a little bit, 1%. It's a new loan in essence. But if your thought is that you want to keep the property for 10 years, get rid of your investors at 3 to 5 years, and some people are talking more like 7 years business plan right now, then you can bolt that on and get rid of them, and you go to the end. Now you essentially own that property without your investors. So that's what I like about Fannie. Also, you can roll in the rehab. Now, rolling in the rehab is great, but you have to have experience. So when I say experience, I'm talking about your net worth and liquidity, and have had Fannie loans in the past, and then also a rehab component as well. You want to have some construction guy on your team, or perhaps that deal sponsor has experience. So these are the requirements for Freddie. This is the SBL on the top. This again is 12 months compared to same thing on Fannie, but 18. Now this gets lifted for 90 days. It has to be 90 days after the governor or government releases the stay in place COVID issues, after if it could be lifted after 90 days or a year after the first payment. So, and yeah, you have to have 80% of occupancy. Doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. And then the T3s have to be consecutive, and they have to be able to be released at that. When you got into the loan, there's a certain DSCR that was required. That's what you will be required in the underwriting to have it released. So in conventional, I'm seeing a lot more conventional Freddie, and the reason why is because they're adjustable. They offer an adjustable rate. And so it's right now it's LIBOR. Well, LIBOR is super low, and it's like 300 over LIBOR, even 290. I haven't done it one recently, but I mean, it's really low. So on some of these bigger deals, you're below 3 on an adjustable rate finance property. Now that does adjust, but you can get in, and there's floors or caps rather. Every month it can't go up higher than the cap. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. And again, these are your reserve requirements are 9 months if it's less than 140, or 6 months if it's greater than 140, principal and interest. So I thought I did a breakdown here on a $5 million loan at 80%, $4 million. So you have to come up with $1 million. Here is the 18 months of your required reserves. The taxes, insurance, and replacement reserves are over $500,000. So they just got rid of these. So in essence, you can see it's a over $500,000 savings just on those 3 line items. So that's why I say we're seeing more deal flow. There's more interest out there because, you know, at the end of the day, you do need to have some equity into the deal, and reserves are not a bad thing. Now, do I think 18 months is a large amount? Yes, I do. But if you're doing a rehab project, you're going to need to capital raise that anyway. So the question is, do you want to raise another 500,000 for your rehab and get it done day one, or get it started day one, or do you want to wait? So that's kind of just the breakdown there. Does anybody have any questions on the reserves?
Nope.
Yeah. And you did see that Freddie dropped pricing this week. So, you know, it's an indication that things are looking a little bit better. I do think that it's going to go below 3. I mean, you can see indication on single family is getting below 3. And so I think that these are great rates, no doubt. I do think that income is being affected, but not to the same thought that we all thought it would be. But I do think that in 6 months, there's going to be a lot available. So keep working on your underwriting, keep working on your education. That's what I have to say. All right, so I want to know what you guys are doing to find partners. What are your partners? Your deal sponsors, your investors, your attorney, your property managers, insurance. What are you guys doing now in COVID when things are quiet? What are you guys doing to build that base, build that team? Anybody can jump in. Okay, Steve.
Just been using referrals, really. You know.
Okay.
Like I said, I wanted to talk to you and see after the video conference that you hosted last week with Dave. It made me think that, I don't know, you might have some people that you could refer to me in Houston, but yeah, I had a local syndicator in Houston refer me to his broker. And then I met some people at a local meetup, and I've been asking them for referrals, and kind of seems to naturally evolve. I'm also a coaching student in Michael Blank's program.
Yeah.
Drew's my coach, so actively talking to coaching students in the program, because I think that shows a lot of alignment and mutual interests if you're in the coaching program at the same time, because you have a very similar goal with a similar timeline.
Definitely
similar things, but I think right now a good thing to work on is building up your content on your website, and doing things like you're doing right now. I think if I can do more video calls to provide education to potential investors, then that is really beneficial. And I think, just like you're talking about, underwriting a lot of deals right now, just to earn underwriting skills, so that when you do have a deal that really makes sense, you'll have it up.
So I would say, Steve, you're right on target. The only thing I would say that I would add is to get out and try to find a deal sponsor in the Houston area. I would say that should be like one of your top searches, is to, whether you put it out in with Michael Blank's group, or you start to go to RIA meetings, but you got to have those guys in your back pocket because once you find that, it's going to be all scrambles out, right? And you want to know that you're in a relationship that's going to be long-term. If
Sure.
You guys are going to be in this deal for 5 years or 7 years or 10, you got to know that person very, very well.
Yeah.
And what I see is a lot of this is done backwards. Like, people find the deal, but they can't put it together. And when there's so much competition, and time is of the essence, time kills all deals.
Yeah.
You got to have all of these partners that you have been working with for the last 5-6 months to say, okay, I got this deal. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Let's go. And you send it over, and now he's on your, he's all geared up for you.
Yeah.
So that would be my biggest input.
I just this last weekend I just created a meetup group. I'm my personal passion outside of work is golf, and I'm a member at a country club out here. So I started a meetup for real estate investors and golfers, and I'm inviting people to come out and play at my country club with me.
That's
every week.
Awesome.
And if I'm sure it'll lead to some sort of contacts. I already got like a couple people to join the meetup, so I'm trying to make it kind of a self-serving thing off, which is something I love to do anyways. And I love real estate. So if I can figure out a way to kind of pair those two up and build up contacts in Houston, I think that would be something that, is helpful, that I'm trying to do right now.
It's excellent. I think you're on a great path.
And another thing, today I had a conversation with Danny Randazzo from Dan's group, Dan Henderson. And he gave me some really good advice that I've been kind of mulling over since I talked to him earlier today. Is he was talking about really picking an asset that either you or someone would like to live in, because that's the type of asset that investors will invest in. He's like, it's easier to invest get investors to invest a higher amount or to raise more money in an asset that either you would want to live, would recommend to your friends and family. So it's been kind of just going through my head all day, because that's something that has been a dilemma to me. I think it's a struggle for me, because I started off as a limited partner in a Class B big deal. And part of why I did that is because I wanted to invest in an asset that I was really proud of. And I think a struggle for me as a new sponsor is to start off with a property that's maybe smaller or in a Class C that would a lot of love and attention to get where you'd be really proud of it. And I think that's just something that I've been thinking of for months now. And I like the way he kind of positioned that to me. That's
a great bit of information and sharing. I think that's very true. You know, I don't know if you listen to Old Capital podcast, but Michael Becker, who's, you know, highly successful, he says, don't buy in the hood. You know, don't buy something that is garbage now, because it's going to be hard to move it and you can't change the hood. Mm. By improving your properties, maybe not going to change much of the property area. So, you know, B and C are where it's at. And even to me, I love B. You know, it's pretty consistent, pretty conservative. So
can I throw a little advice out there?
Sure.
Cool. A couple of things. One is related to networking and sponsors, which is something you guys were talking about earlier. And then the other is related to the deals themselves. So I've got a couple of deals under my belt now, and this last one has been an absolute doozy. I mean, it's holy, you know what? I mean, it's
guacamole, holy guacamole.
Yeah. Julie knows a little bit. It's gonna be one of those ones I'll remember the rest of my life for sure. A lot of time, but it's sweet. So a little piece of advice just in general is, one, if you're starting out especially, I mean, I have other assets, like I've started a lot of businesses and I've had some great success there. And so just cutting my teeth on that, I've learned a lot, but also even in single families, flips, duplexes, I did a bunch of that before I've gotten into this larger space. And I would agree, yes, you don't want to necessarily buy in the ghetto if you can help it or whatever, right? Who wants to live in the ghetto? I lived there when I was a kid. You don't want to be there. But here's what I would tell you. One thing is, when I bought my first house, I bought in an area that everyone told me not to go. They said, oh, they don't, you know, what are you, because they were not in the real estate space. They didn't really understand ROI and cash flow and how much I needed down and what I could afford and all this kind of stuff. And so I let the numbers guide me. I mean, and Julia makes a great point. Yes. Would it be harder to get out of a ghetto? Let's just use the term ghetto or working class asset, D class, let's say, or whatever.
Let's call it D class. Yeah.
Sure. It might be a little harder to get out of that asset, right? But one thing you want to consider is, one, are you new in this business? You know, you're talking about Dan Hanford's group, right? I know those guys. They're buying $50 million assets. So it's easy to say that when you're buying $50 million assets. Go ask Joe Fairless what he does. He's buying $80 million assets. I mean, like we're not in that space, right? So for us to go and try to raise $30 million is just unheard of. So I would say that I would agree if you were in his position and you owned a bunch of medical practices like Dan does, sure. But to start out, one thing you might want to consider is, okay, first of all, do you know what you don't know yet? In other words, what are you capable of as far as capital raise, right? How many people do you know in your circle of influence that would jump on board with you, not just as an investor, but as a team, right? Are you in the Michael Block programs really utilizing the others around you? Like, I'll just use me as an example, right? I've had a lot of people, I've had several mentor students call me directly and just say, hey man, I'm new to the mentor program. And I'm not an expert, by the way. I have advice. And they're like, hey, I just want to know your thoughts. And have asked me some advice. And I've said to them, well, first question is, what's your value proposition? Who are you to a sponsor anyways? Like, you want to get to know sponsors. They don't have time for you. I mean, honestly, they have 1 million people that are coming at them to get into deals. And unless you are saying to them, look, I have time, I have money, I have credit, I'm in the market that you want to be in, which is, let's say, Dallas or wherever, right? Well, that's a value proposition. So then you say to a sponsor, you know what, I'll give you a perfect example, Steve, right? And I'm just giving you a piece of example here. I have 1.5 million in net worth. Okay. This is just you speaking. I have 1.5 million in net worth. I have 200,000 in capital. I have 300,000 in retirement, right? I have great credit, and I have 5 hours a week to give to underwrite or whatever. And I've got another buddy who has similar or whatever, right? Okay. All of a sudden now a sponsor says, well, okay, this person's serious. They've got some credit. And you don't have to have all that. I'm just giving you an example of a way you might want to go out networking, because networking isn't just chatting with people, because everyone is so busy, right? It's hey, you want deals? I want deals. What can we do together? Because here's what I'm bringing to the table. Let's go. And that's kind of what I did when I first started. I thought, what, other than my energy and my work ethic, because I've done deals. I'm not new in business, but in multifamily, I am. So how do I get the word out to people that I bring value? What is value? It's different to a sponsor. It's different to an underwriter. It's different to an asset manager type person, right? It's different to a capital raiser. So your key is figuring out what pieces of the puzzle can I partner with and where do I fit, right? So once you figure that out, then yeah, go network with sponsors. But if you can't have that conversation with somebody, they're just going to be like, man, sure, 5 minutes. Hey, what's up? You know, first thing I ask people, I've had probably 4 phone calls from mentor students. And why? Honestly, I couldn't even tell you why they call me. I just give advice or whatever. And the first thing I ask them is, who are you to a deal? Like, what do you bring? Right. And then they go, what do you mean? And I go, well, what's your net worth? Don't be afraid. Just tell me. Do you know it? If you don't, figure it out. Because the banks are going to ask you. Julie's going to ask you. Right. Okay, what kind of capital do you have? What kind of experience? And so I guess my point is, and I don't mean to be harsh, because we've all been in the position where we're starting, right? If you articulate that quickly with a good attitude, you're going to draw some sponsors to you. If you say, and I've had mentor students say this to me, well, I have about $25,000. I have decent credit, right? I don't know exactly. I'm starting to do social media or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to tell you, if you're looking for a sponsor that's worth 10 million, that's going to jump on your deal and he's going to risk everything and all his time to help you, drag you through a deal, that's going to be a challenge, right? So we all add value. Every one of us has some sort of incredible value proposition. It's a matter of getting really good at articulating it and drawing people in to want to partner with you, right? So one of the reasons I've not been as active as I usually am on Slack, I mean, I was all over the place in the beginning, is I have been working my ass off on a deal. I mean, seriously, 12, 18-hour days. It sounds crazy. Like, why would you have to do that? It's the underwriting. This thing is massively manual. I'm talking thousands of documents, all cross-referencing numbers. But I'm doing it because I'm learning a ton doing it. And I can underwrite this thing like you would not believe. If you asked me anything about this deal, I could sell this thing in my sleep, right? And I'll tell you what, I've also been working on a brand new website, social media campaigns, video, all kinds of stuff that we're about to launch. And we started sending test samples out, and we're already getting people from previous deals that are saying, hey man, I want to get in on your next deal. I just got that great new newsletter you just sent out. How do I get in? One of the investors said, would you consider me on your next deal? Would you consider me? I mean, are you serious? Would I consider you? Like, we need you. Like, and I know it's an opportunity, but my point is, guys, is it is great to network. It is great to talk. But Steve, I think you made a great point about, yeah, I'm building this. I'm working on this. I'm doing. Yes, that is critical, because if you don't have any credibility, you got 10 grand in your savings account, right? You got no website. You got no partners that can bring some credibility. You got an uphill battle, man. And the reality is we can all be successful in syndication. We can all rock. We can find deals. We can buy a class D, if you will, for $1 million or 20 units, or we can buy 500 units or $50 million deal. But you have to have value. You have to have a team that can help you and assist you. And I've started bringing people onto my team like permanently. I brought one guy on, he partnered with me on my 104 units, and he's a rock star. And I said to him, you know what? You're a rock star. I'm a rock star. Why are we both spinning our wheels trying to grow our own businesses? Let's just get together. I said, do you want my brand or your brand? He said, I love your brand. I'm like, great, come on board, let's go. And we just partnered, because it's like, why waste time? You know what I mean? When you have 2 or 3 rock stars, let's get together and make miracles happen. You know, there are other people that have done that in the Michael Blanc program, and they're excelling a lot faster, right? Instead of thinking, well, I've got to be the leader. I've got to be the one who just goes out and grows this business to make my millions. I promise you guys, you don't need to do that. You get a couple deals under your belt as a group, and the money is going to start flowing, right? The reputation and the second and third and fourth deal and capital will start coming. I'm seeing that. It's already, deals are coming. I mean, brokers start taking you pretty seriously. And pretty soon you don't have to build a bunch of relationships with a bunch of brokers. Pretty soon you're in a market, you got a deal or two or a good sponsor. I mean, Julie will say, hey, this deal just came up here or there. This happened here or there. I got this sponsor who he just doesn't want to put the time and energy, but he's got 8 million in net worth. You guys are solid. You guys want to get in on this thing. I mean, that's how it starts working, right? So just don't, one of the things I love this saying, and it's called Getting Caught Up in the Thick of Thin Things by Stephen Covey. It's in one of his books, and it's called Don't Get Caught Up in the Thick of Thin Things. Don't focus on all the things that you need to be doing. Figure out the most critically important things that are going to move the needle and just pound on those things. And for anyone who doesn't have experience or partnerships with, let's say, deal sponsors, then figure out who you are so you can sell yourself to a sponsor. And then someone's going to want to do business with you, if that makes sense, right? And that's not unlike being a coffee shop owner, right? If you're in the right location, people just come in. If you have a spectacular product, people just buy you. I mean, but that takes a lot of work up front. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And back to the Class D property, if you will. Yes, we all aspire to have Class A, Joe Fairless, Dan Hanford, whoever properties, right? We want that. That's, believe me, I know. It's nice to buy a $50 million asset, raise the rents $100, refi everyone out in 24 months, and everybody makes millions. I mean, that's just fabulous, right? But that's not the reality for a lot of us or a lot of students who are buying $2, $3, $4 million properties. A lot of us are going to have to find those tougher Class Cs, maybe Class Bs, and possibly even compete. So Class Cs and Ds are going to be a lot more challenging to get into, but you might have to find the right team, the right sponsor that wants to get into the mud with you and just get through that so you can get a little experience under your belt, right? So I don't want to poo-poo anything anyone said. There's many ways to get there, right? And don't block anything out until you got a few deals under your belt, and then you can step back and go, okay, I get this. There's a reason Joe and Dan buy $50 million Class A assets, right? I mean, clearly. There's a reason Michael Blanc was in Class Cs for a while, and he's looking at Class Bs and nicer properties. There is absolutely a reason. But even Michael Blanc is buying $20, $30 million properties, right, guys? So just food for thought. And any feedback or comments on that would be great. This is just based on my experience so far, but it has worked. And things are starting to roll fast for me. So just wanted to point that out.
Great. Anybody have any
You're so right, Chris. I mean, you definitely have to bring value. And I think, in my opinion, for the sponsors, the most valuable thing is a deal. So that's why, like Steve, I'm also like looking and analyzing. So just bringing that deal, and I have a couple of sponsors that I have in mind. But I agree. I got to approach them with Julie. Then I got to approach them and make more of a connection before I just pop out of the blue. Hey, here's a deal.
Yes.
If it's a good deal, they're not going to say no, though. But it makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it does come down to somebody that they know, like, and trust. It's not something that you're going to call them up and say, here's a deal. You got to have a track record with them. So whether you're sending them, I start out with Facebook, like, oh, I really like what you said here. Oh, like, and you go, the guy sees it. Hi. The guy sees that you're liking their stuff, and then you say, hey, I've been really enjoying what you've been posting here. Would you be open to a meeting, a conversation? And they're like, yeah, you obviously like what I'm posting, and that opens the door up. But you press like once, nobody, you don't have an experience. This guy doesn't know who you are. You say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? What's the likelihood of them making time in their day to talk to Davide, right? I mean, so I think there's a lot of power in LinkedIn and in Facebook in making new relationships and making them really solid. Does anybody have a comment on that? I mean, Tim, you've been successful on Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. I have only one comment. Let's go. Let's go. Seriously.
Yeah.
What Chris said is absolutely true. 110%. You have to be networking. You have to provide some kind of value. People on Facebook will look at you, and I have some friends, they've been doing videos every day, and they've gotten a really good traction with some big players, and they've been able to just recently close on a deal just because they were doing these everyday lives and they were providing some value. They were talking about their experiences. They were talking about how they underwrite deals and so on. So yeah, you got to find your superpower and roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get Chris all fired up when he was hopped up on caffeine after spending 20 hours analyzing the numbers on his deal. I think just to kind of elaborate too, in terms of what I was saying, instead of going after maybe like a $5 million class B property that's, whatever, 50 units, maybe I would target a 20 unit class B property, because that's something that I would be more proud to market. And I think that might just be maybe a personal, I don't know, bias, or maybe even limiting belief at this point. Mm-hmm. Whereas I believe that if I'm more proud of the asset, I'll be able to sell it better. So I think that's more of the direction I was going with that. But then to Chris's point, I think there are people that make money in all different asset classes of real estate. And, I have single family properties. I've been successful in business, but in this particular space, just because I was mulling around, whether or not to start in a class C or class B property, like, that doesn't, I hope that didn't come across as me being naive or not realizing that you have to do all those other things to provide value. I think anyone that is in this room right now knows that we have to provide value in order to be part of the general partnership team. I think that's just right. So that was kind of the basis of my entire thought process on the conversation with Danny.
I would tell you also that I do agree with creating value, but I have a guy who has some net worth, but beyond that, he's just a really, really nice guy. And all people want to do is get him on his team. He doesn't underwrite. He just makes you feel special when you're with him. And they're like, okay, I want you on my team. Okay, you can be on my team. He's like, okay, that's great. And at the end of the day, what value has he brought? Probably nothing. He's just a really nice guy. And people in this industry want to help people with that they know, like, and trust. So beyond, spending a bunch of time and money and energy, it's making that connection that can get you in these deals. People call me all the time and say, hey, can you be on my deal? I'm like, I would love to be on your deal. So it goes, because you work hard for people, or you make that connection. It's really important. That's all I'll continue to say about that. Okay, so somebody posed this at a meetup, and I thought it was really cool. If you were meeting someone for the first time who said, oh, what do you do? I'm interested. What would your response be for them to get into multifamily? Like, what would your recommendation be? And I want each one of you guys to tell me, because I bet even though you're already in this, it's great to hear what someone else would recommend it. And you go, I'm not doing that. That's a great idea. So Brian, what would you tell somebody?
So the question was, if someone were to ask me,
how do I get into this?
How do I get into multifamily? What would I say to them?
Yeah. What should they do to get in?
Let me see. So everything I've learned in the last maybe year and a half probably has to do. I mean, the underwriting thing is something in itself, learning how to underwrite.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I would say I'm a pretty quiet person to begin with, but I feel like just making the attempt to speak with someone, it does a lot for me, and it probably I don't know how I affect people, but just making the attempt to speak with people and going out a little bit more, I think is pretty valuable. And I mean, it sounds cliche, but yeah, I mean, people talking to people. I've met more people doing this apartment real estate thing than I can even, So I mean, yeah, just taking, however small it is, taking one small step when it's uncomfortable, I guess.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
I would say, thank you, Brian. I would say for me, education. Get your education before stepping foot, and just start underwriting, start learning about finance, start learning about rehabbing, what would that look like? Start to learn the business and then get your deals, do your deal flow. Michelle, what would you tell somebody?
Pretty much the same thing I just put in the chat. Like, main thing is education. When I first got into it, that was the biggest thing, is starting to shift my mindset, because I was a single family investor for 6 years before thinking I wanted to scale my business through multifamily. And so I was kind of starting at the bottom and just trying to get educated, and especially the underwriting process. Going through the deal analyzer was definitely
now, I want you all to know that everybody doesn't need to be an expert in underwriting. You can get an understanding of the underwriting, but if you have a specialty of capital raising, then you can find that other partner that does great in underwriting. So that's what we're talking about, is finding what your superpower is, like Tim said. So learning, if that's what your skill is, go for it. Learn it, breathe it, teach others. Great thought, Michelle. Tim, what would you tell somebody?
Well, I've been asked this question many times.
Oh, okay.
And my first response, actually, I determine what stage they're at, what level they're at. And if they're just a beginner, I tend to basically roll with what you just guys said. Definitely get an education, and not just any education. I would recommend finding the best educators out there and follow them all, because there are a lot of schools out there that will teach you something, but most likely it's not going to be skills that you're going to be able to use, or those skills will basically not going to be helpful to you. You more to make mistakes by not knowing who to get education from. So there are a lot of educators out there. Get the best education. Second would be networking. Go to as many networking events, meetups as you can possibly do, preferably a couple a week, to talk to people, see where they are. The third thing would be finding your superpower. What do you like to do? Where do you want to be? If you don't know, definitely try all of them. Next thing, you definitely need to know your numbers. I think I had few teams, and I discovered that when the team member does not know the numbers, does not understand how these numbers come up and how you evaluate the property, how you evaluate the market, sub-market, it makes it difficult for everybody if they want to pitch in their idea, or they want to pitch in their opinion. I'd like them to have an understanding what they're talking about, what they're pitching. So in my experience, my partners, I'd like them to understand the numbers and know what they're talking about, especially if they're going to be talking to investors, because we've seen some sophisticated investors and accredited investors that do ask really tough questions. And, you know, making up things on the fly is not a good thing. So yeah, definitely knowing the numbers. And
You gonna leave any for anybody else?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, try different models. You know, every time you approach underwriting model, find out what that model is actually made for. Because I think there are 3 or 4 different models, and each model is specifically made for a specific deal, maybe for a 3 or 4 year term, maximum maybe 10 years. Some of them, they will assume that you're going to do all the renovations in the first year, and you don't realize about these things until you actually start underwriting and start going deep into deals. So wherever you're getting your model, whatever you want to work on, find out, you know, what the creator of that model was actually targeting, what they were trying to do. So
Good point.
I'm sure there are some other things, but these are the basic ones.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Steve, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah, I think it's all about education and networking. And deals that I've invested in, you know, Chris said something about earlier. He said, you know, someone asked him if they could invest in his deal. I think that's the ultimate goal that you want to get to, right? Because no one wants to be sold anything.
Yeah.
Like people can sense someone that's not authentic immediately. And so what we are doing is we're offering such a great opportunity to invest your money and do it passively and create a great return. And the objective is to get your investors to understand that. So I think first of all, you need to understand the things, and then you need to create a system that attracts people to you. So whatever that is, whether it's, you know, running a local meetup or having on your website, where you can attract people, like-minded people to you, I think that would be probably the best way to kind of approach it and get started. But yeah, education to be really simple.
Yeah.
Simple answer.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Steve. All right, you guys, we've got 4 minutes, 5 minutes. I got to go speak on another podcast, or a webinar. So let's go through this. Davide, what would you tell somebody? And, you know, it's not just the 10 of us. We post this, you know, and we've got quite a few people that listen. So there's going to be new people that are through Michael Blank's group. So if you were to come upon somebody, what would you tell them what they should be doing in multifamily, how to get into it? What are the steps?
Yeah, somebody who approaches me and wonders, you know, how to get started, definitely I would recommend them a couple of books that I've read, and let me know how that goes. If you like what you read and you fall in love with it and you really, really enjoy it, step 2, right? Networking, keep educating, analyzing. There's so much to learn. And it's a science and it's an art, because there's so many ways of structuring this. The networking part is also a big plus. You get to meet so many new people who eventually become friends.
Absolutely.
So yeah, once you go through that first step of education, everything else almost like falls through, you know. Like obviously you have to have the will and the dedication to put forth, to keep going and keep reading and keep, you know, tonight, what is it, almost 9 p.m. and we're here talking about real estate. So you got to love it. Yeah.
Goal setting and you know, in that case too, Davide. That's great.
Yes.
Chris? Yeah. Chris, can you make it short?
Yeah.
I know that's hard because you got a lot to say.
I know. I'll keep it really simple. You know, again, I would just say be really strategic and pinpoint what the most important priorities are in your immediate circle of influence, that thick of thin things thing, you know, whether it's the network, you know, building up somebody, your systems. Just really get laser focused and just hustle on that. And don't get too caught up in the million things, because that's what syndication is a million things. And you'll find that you'll gain clarity as you get really, really good at that one or two things.
Thoughts? Jay?
I can't really add anything to that. I mean, everybody had the great points of educating themselves, first of all, which I am still in the middle of. I have a lot to learn. I'm not in a position to tell anybody what they need to be doing or things of that nature, with the exception of the book thing. I guess I've read probably, let me clarify, I haven't read, I've listened audiobooks, over 25 different titles.
Yeah.
And then the podcasts and things of that nature. And I think they need to know which direction they want to go, whether they want to be a passive investor or an active investor.
Good point. That's a great point.
So, yeah, other than that, I mean, everybody's, I think, on point with what should be relayed to the next guy.
Great. Andy, do you have something that you'd like to share? What you would think about? Maybe Andy's off watching a movie. How about Alfredo? Is Alfredo behind that screen number 2?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there's Andy. Now Andy's here. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm driving, so I'm trying not to get killed on the freeway.
No, please don't. You just keep listening.
I wanted to add that I appreciate what everybody's saying. I'm new to the group, and I have a partner in this who's really interested in changing her life as well, and we've been learning and listening and doing the deal analyzer. So we put a date a month from now, and I think that that's what you need, is to actually set a hard date to actually start, or you'll be analyzing things to death and not getting started.
Very, very good point, Andy. And welcome. I'm so glad you were here.
Thank you.
It fluctuates from 10 people to 40 people. So tonight's a slow one, a little quiet one, but it's nice and intimate. So thank you for joining us. And then lastly,
appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Alfredo, what do you have? And wrap it up on what we could tell somebody that wants to get into it.
Well, I think just about everyone has said a little piece of it, what's really important. But the main thing is get it educated, obviously. Then start looking into your market. Really important to set in your deal criteria. That's something that everybody needs to start looking what the deal that you really focus, especially when you're talking to brokers. It's really important. And then build your team. That's and then find the partners that you need, either passive, partners that you need out there. So I think those are the keys, so
great.
Just like everyone has said it before.
Yeah. I think it's all really good information, and we all help each other, whether it's going to be on a deal that you have or a deal that someone else has. We're all here to help each other. If Chris, his deal opens up and you want to invest with him, I mean, this is the place where you're going to find deals, whether it as a GP on a deal or a limited partner. So trying to add value, trying to create a space where we can network with each other. So I appreciate you all being here. We will see you next week. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm around. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks,
see you guys.
Julie.
Guys and gals.